Why do we invent gods? What if I told you God exists because your brain can't survive without him? Every human civilization has invented gods. People who had never met each other, spoke different languages, lived on different continents, somehow all believed in invisible beings. That's too strange to ignore. So, why does the human mind keep creating gods? The answer takes us through a roller coaster of different ideas. Imagine you were born 50,000 years ago. You don't know the first thing about fires, winds, lightnings, storms, or oceans. Suddenly, a storm tears through the sky. Lightning strikes a tree. One night, you dream about someone in your tribe who died earlier, and in the dream, they seem as alive as ever. The land magically produces crops. You're barely able to use your hands to wield tools, yet, somehow, you still have to explain the world. So here is the question. Did humans invent gods? Or perhaps the better question is, why do gods appear in almost every human civilization, separated by ocean and thousands of years? Anthropologists, psychologists, sociologists, philosophers, neuroscientists, and evolutionary biologists have all tried to answer this question. And surprisingly, they don't necessarily contradict each other. Instead, each explains one single piece of a much larger puzzle. Now, let's begin where anthropology itself began. Anthropology, the first spirits. Anthropologist Edward Bernard Tyler proposed one of the earliest scientific explanations for religion. He believed religion began with something called animism, the belief that everything possesses a spirit. Why? Because early humans dreamed. Imagine watching your dead father speak to you in a dream. He seems alive. You wake up and wonder, perhaps a part of him survived death. The same logic applies to shadows, reflections, echoes, breathing, and unconsciousness. Ancient people concluded that every living thing must possess an invisible essence, a soul. As Tyler wrote, animism is the minimum definition of religion. From this perspective, gods were not invented overnight. They evolved gradually from beliefs about the spirits, ancestors, and unseen forces. Magic failed, so we created gods. James George Frazer, author of The Golden Bough, had a different idea. He argued that humanity first believed magic could directly control nature, dance correctly and rain comes, perform the ritual correctly and crops grow. But magic often failed. So people stopped trying to command nature and instead began negotiating with the supernatural beings. Magic became religion, and religion became prayer, and prayer in turn became sacrifice. Science would eventually replace both. Fraser summarized human history as magic, followed by religion, followed by science. Modern anthropologists criticize this sequence for being overly simplistic, but Fraser introduced the revolutionary idea. Perhaps gods were humanity's first explanation for an unpredictable universe. We never worship gods, at least not according to sociologist Emil Durkheim. Durkheim made one of the boldest claims in the history of social science. He wrote, "The idea of society is the soul of religion. When people gather around a sacred symbol, a cross, a totem, a temple, they feel overwhelmed by a force larger than themselves. They think they are experiencing God. Durkheim believed that they are actually experiencing society itself. Religion binds people together. Shared rituals create trust. Shared myths create identity. Shared gods create civilizations. In other words, God isn't simply believed, God is socially produced. The human brain wants gods, Now we move into cognitive science. Psychologist Justin Barrett proposed something called the Hyperactive Agency Detection Device, or HADD. Imagine hearing a rustle in the bushes. There are two possibilities. It's the wind, or it's a predator. If you assume it's the wind and you're wrong, you die. If you assume it's a predator and you're wrong, you've only wasted a few seconds. Evolution therefore favored minds that constantly detect agency, even when no one exists. We see faces in clouds, we hear voices in random sounds, we attribute intention to accidents. The psychologist Jesse Bering argues that this tendency naturally extends to invisible minds. Perhaps someone is watching. Perhaps someone caused this. Perhaps something invented this. From an evolutionary perspective, believing in invisible agents may simply be the side effect of a brain designed to survive. Why some gods spread better than others? Anthropologist Pascal Boyer asked another fascinating question. Why do certain supernatural beings become religions while countless others disappear? His answer is surprisingly simple. Successful gods are mostly ordinary, but slightly extraordinary. An invisible person, a dead ancestor who still thinks, a mountain that hears prayers, a god who knows your thoughts. They're just strange enough to be memorable, but not so strange that they are incomprehensible. Boyer argues our brains are naturally attracted to what he calls minimally counterintuitive concepts. Gods fit perfectly into that category. Big gods built big civilizations. Anthropologist Ara Norenzayan shifts the question entirely. Instead of asking why individuals believe, he asks why civilizations do. Imagine a village of 50 people. Everyone knows everyone. Reputation keeps people honest. Now imagine a city of 100,000 strangers. Who stops cheating? Who ensures trust? Well, Lorenzian argues that civilizations solve this problem by inventing big gods, all-seeing, morally concerned, always watching, even when no human is. He writes, big gods help build big societies. Whether or not the gods actually existed mattered less than whether people believed someone was always watching. The symbolic mind. Claude Lévi-Strauss thought everyone else was asking the wrong question. Religion isn't primarily about believing, it's about thinking. Human beings constantly organize reality through oppositions, life and death, nature and culture, male and female, chaos and order. Myth and the gods within them help reconcile these contradictions. You see, for Levi-Strauss, myths are good to think with. Gods become symbolic tools through which cultures understand impossible questions. Freud, God as the Father. Sigmund Freud approached religion psychologically. He argued that religion satisfies childhood needs that never completely disappear. The universe is terrifying. Death is inevitable. Nature is indifferent. God becomes the ultimate father, protective, punishing, yet comforting. Freud famously called religion the universal obsessional neurosis of humanity. You see, for Freud, God exists because human beings cannot bear helplessness. Jung, God exists in the psyche. Carl Jung strongly disagreed. Whether God exists objectively was, for Jung, almost beside the point. God unquestionably exists psychologically. Religious symbols emerge spontaneously across cultures because they express universal patterns of the unconscious. Jung wrote, I do not believe, I know. Not because he claimed empirical proof of God, no, but because encounters with the divine are genuine psychological experiences. We are the only animal that knows it will die. Perhaps the deepest explanation comes from cultural anthropologist Ernest Becker. Humans possess an extraordinary gift. We know we are going to die, and this knowledge is unbearable. In The Denial of Death, Becker argues that civilization itself is built upon attempts to escape mortality. Religion promises that death is not the end. He writes, "The idea of death, the fear of it, haunts the human animal like nothing else." According to terror management theory developed by Jeff Greenberg, Sheldon Solomon, and Tom Kaczynski, hundreds of experiments have shown that reminding people of death often strengthens attachment to religious and cultural worldviews. And perhaps gods don't merely explain life, perhaps they protect us from the knowledge of death. Nietzsche. Did we create God? Then comes Friedrich Nietzsche. He turns the question upside down. He doesn't ask why humans invented gods. He asks what happened after we stopped believing. His most famous line is often misunderstood. God is dead. God remains dead, and we have killed him. Nietzsche wasn't celebrating atheism. He was warning that modern society had destroyed the foundations upon which its values rested. Without God, who decides right and wrong? Meaning, purpose? Well, you see, his question still haunts the modern world. So, why do we invent gods? Whether gods emerge from spirits, rituals, symbols, and social life, or they are the consequences of our brains trying to detect invisible agents and invisible patterns, or whether gods unite communities and comfort frightened ones, or simply protect us from impending terror of death. Gods tell us more about us than about themselves, because we have created gods in our own image. Whether gods are real is a theological question, but why humans believe in gods is a human question. And after more than a century of research across various fields of study, one thing has become clear. Religion is not a historical accident. It is woven deeply into the architecture of human culture and the human mind. Maybe the greatest mystery isn't whether humans invented gods. Maybe it's why, despite all our scientific knowledge, we continue to need them. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. And I'll see you next time.